Greetings, YouTube. Back here again, doing another nerd report. And news keeps flowing, so I gotta keep telling. So, in today's report, we gotta pour a little bit of Kool-Aid out for one of our homies, EchoStar, because I don't see their roadmap looking very well from here. So, before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel, hit like on the story, and then also stay for the story. So we got EchoStar. This is in space news. So I'm a bit of a space nerd, Trekkie fan. Live long and prosper, people. So EchoStar eyes SATCOM expansion after forced pivot from Spectrum sales. So, where does EchoStar stand currently in the cellular realm? So, I do talk about cellular technologies. I'm a big fan of just telecommunications across the board. You know, how we communicate, the ways that we communicate, being able to, open up the spectrum up so we can do more with communications. Granted, we talking about 20, 30 years as being a novice, just fascinated about how do we communicate with each other in over different ways, from understanding how fiber works to radio frequencies, different things like that. It just fascinates me beyond all belief. So, with that being said, where does EchoStar fall in the new paradigm shift that is technically has created for itself? I think that pretty much EchoStar is dead now. Pour out a little Kool-Aid for them, because the sale of their spectrum kind of gave them hope when they jumped aboard the wireless train when T-Mobile was trying to acquire Sprint. That got them in their biggest foot in the door, but now not so much. I believe that we're seeing the death throes of a company that is already sinking. So, EchoStar's CEO, Charlie Ergen, went to a conference and they were talking to him about what are you going to do, now that, you're kind of out of the cellular game, and where are you going to go at next? You don't have your spectrum to be able to do D2D constellation and different other things, and reshaping EchoStar. With EchoStar having to have the FCC on his back, it had to make a hard pivot move, which that's one of the reasons why the article says that. It says a hard pivot. So where do they stand at currently? I don't think that they're going to stand very long. Right now, as a telecommunication company, they're being outdone on every aspect of communications. So you got Starlink, which is basically going hard in the paint with anything they can, and they got deeper pockets than EchoStar does. So keeping Starlink in this whole scenario and SpaceX in this whole scenario, I foresee maybe down the road a possible buyout from EchoStar to SpaceX. And we're talking about global acquisitions due to the fact that EchoStar still holds S-band frequencies, which is the same S-band frequencies that they just gave up in the United States. They have that over in Europe also. So if SpaceX can get a hold of the S-band frequencies for Europe also, that will make them a harder competitor to deal with globally than any other company. Number one, HughesNet is of EchoStar. They use geosynchronous satellites for communications. It's not as good or as reliable as SpaceX's Starlink satellites, Plus, they operate in a lower orbit than what EchoStar operates in. So you're talking about satellites that literally follows a certain geographical point in space, corresponds with what's on the ground, versus a constellation of satellites orbiting over your head. You get better throughput the closer the satellites get to you. You're talking about being able to open up better speeds, better communications. You're already being outlapped on one end when it comes to telecommunications by your competitor that just bought spectrum from you. Kind of a very hard jab in your ribs with the knife, and then you add insult to injury. The only other viable realm that you had left was television, and that's a dying medium per se as it stands today. So a lot of people don't really watch TV. If you have YouTube, Netflix, and maybe Hulu, maybe a couple other channels that you could just download via an app, you're pretty good. You get your news the same exact way a lot of people get their news. I mean, breaking news happens on YouTube all the time, and within a couple of minutes of it being reported. So, is a traditional satellite provider going to be necessary now when you can just need data? And SpaceX offers that also. I mean, as a person who's not a big fan of Elon Musk and a lot of his properties, you can see somebody who can look at a satellite dish and go, that's not going to offer me what I really want anymore. And slowly but surely, people are going to start upgrading away from it. The other one that EchoStar does is what's it called? Sling TV. And Sling, like I said, television as we know it is dying. Period. And that is another dying medium that they're in. So a lot of the little mediums that EchoStar has built their base off of over the last 20, 30, 40 years, all those little niches are starting to die. And where does that leave them as a company? I believe that where that leaves them as a company is they don't really have a company left. I don't really see them as a viable company to really be reporting on anymore, due to the fact that they've given away their biggest trump card, which was their spectrum in the United States. They probably were. I think that there were reports early on, maybe a year or two ago, that they wanted to do the same thing that SpaceX is trying to do right now, which is do direct to cell. And they had the spectrum in Europe, they had the spectrum in the United States, but they didn't deploy it, and the FCC wanted them to deploy that spectrum. Period. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and SpaceX forced their hand. We see a company like SpaceX that's literally going at this, with everything they have, a whole lot harder than the traditional company like EchoStar. They don't have the deep pockets no more. They don't have a billionaire sitting in the back wings that's willing to spend billions of dollars at the earliest whim just to make something work. So I don't see this company surviving much longer. More than likely, it might end up getting acquired by SpaceX itself. If the spectrum holdings are good enough, and if the television side can be revamped, maybe a SpaceX can see that as a viable option to add with their services already. But really, truly, HughesNet is not going to be viable soon. What is it? Sling TV is not going to be viable soon. A lot of their little companies that they've built over time is not going to be viable soon. The only thing that they have claim to fame right now is that Boost Mobile is tied directly to SpaceX through their satellite direct-to-satellite service. So they probably got their offering. Maybe the data might look good. They can offer it up as a peace offering as a sacrificial lamb to entice SpaceX to totally acquire the whole company. That's what I think is probably going to end up happening. You do little piece bids and little snippets, and eventually you get to the ultimate goal, which is to sell the whole company. That's what I believe is about to happen. That's the reason why my thumbnail looks the way it does. I don't think that EchoStar is a viable choice anymore. But I want to see what other people's conversation might be around this. So in the comments below, let me know what you think. Do you think the company is still worthy of our attention? Do you believe that the company still has a viable and a good chance to kind of turn around a lot of their properties? These things do matter, and especially in today's environment when television's dying, traditional television is dying. A lot of people don't have cable. A lot of people are leaving cable, but not leaving internet. Remember, they're leaving traditional cable TV, but they're not leaving internet. People still want the internet. They want access to the internet, but they don't really want television in the traditional sense. So that's that's going to be an avenue that EchoStar is going to lose. Their dish offering is straight television. That's dying. These different things are starting to die around a company that focused on television-based and communication satellite-based services. Where do they end up now? That's the question I'm presenting to all the people of YouTube, is where do they end up now? What's going to happen to them? And when these businesses start dying, yes, they got an infusion of money. When these deals clear, they're supposed to get somewhere close to like $24 billion of money on hand. But what good is that when your services are dying already? Is this your pivot to leave? Is this your chance to go ahead and hightail and run and then totally sell the rest of the business? You know, sell the S-band spectrum in Europe. Get your money's worth there and go ahead and get out altogether. That's how I look at it. Get your money, go ahead and leave. But thank y'all for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think when it comes to what do you think that EchoStar's next move is going to end up being. I'm curious to hear what you're going to say. And y'all have a good one.